Hey everyone, Collector Crow here. Welcome to Manga Archive. Today we're going to be discussing Fullmetal Alchemist. So stay tuned. So if you've been anywhere in the anime and manga community for, I don't know, the past 10, 15 years, you've probably heard of Fullmetal Alchemist, a manga by Hiromu Arakawa, and more than likely you already have your opinions on it, unless your name is Giguk. But nonetheless, it is my all-time favorite manga, so I figured there's nothing better to start off Manga Archive with than Fullmetal Alchemist. So my goal with Manga Archive is to help people make a decision on whether a manga is right for you. I want to give a general overview about who the manga might be for, who it might not be for, and what the general pros and cons are. I mean, not necessarily in a review sense, but just to give a big picture idea. So that if you're looking for a new manga to pick up, maybe you'll know already if Fullmetal Alchemist is something that you should check out based on your preferences. So anyway, let's jump right into it. The manga series was serialized from 2000 to 2010 in Shonen Gangen, and it actually has won a pretty good amount of awards, including the 49th annual Shogakukan Award, which is one of the most prestigious awards in the manga industry. So yeah, it's pretty well revered. The manga primarily focuses on two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, on their journey to find a mystical item known as the Philosopher's Stone. In their world, there exists this science known as alchemy, which is the science or art of deconstructing and then reconstructing matter into a different form or shape, just as long as it has the same base chemical composition. It's essentially the law of conservation of matter, just anime form, where it's known as equivalent exchange. In order to obtain something, something of equal value must be lost. And that forms the core plot of Fullmetal Alchemist. After losing their mother, Edward and Alphonse, when they're very young, attempt to bring her back to life through alchemy. And transmuting humans with alchemy is actually very taboo because it's akin to playing God, which, yeah, that's not great. So in order to resurrect a human, what is going to be an equivalent exchange for a human soul? Well, as it turns out, Alphonse ends up losing his entire body, and Edward ends up losing a limb. Then in order to save his brother's soul, Edward uses alchemy to bind Alphonse to a suit of armor. So his soul remains in that suit of armor even though his body has just totally vanished from the plane of existence. And in order to do that, he also ends up giving up another one of his limbs. Again, equivalent exchange. So are they able to resurrect their mother? Not really. No, it doesn't work out. The two boys end up wanting to correct their mistake and get back their original bodies. Now, again, human transmutation is still not really something you can just do. You can't just create an arm out of nothing or a body out of nothing. So that leads them to search for the Philosopher's Stone, which is this fabled item that can amplify the power of someone's alchemy, even letting them bypass general laws associated with the science. In order to do that, Edward becomes a dog of the military, known as a state alchemist. That means with his alchemic abilities, he pretty much can be summoned at any time by the military of the country of Amestris in order to help them with any events, or events isn't the right word, any ordeals or situations that might arise that would need someone with strong alchemic abilities. So he becomes known as the Fullmetal Alchemist based on the prosthetic arm and leg that he has had his childhood friend Winry make for him in order to replace the ones that he's lost. So using the resources that they have by working with the Amestris government, the boys travel in search of the Philosopher's Stone and ultimately end up running into a few different people who don't exactly have the best intentions. The first being a man who wants to kill all state alchemists. Why? Well, I won't go into too much detail, but let's just say state alchemists didn't really treat his homeland well. so he's out for revenge, and of course, Edward, being a state alchemist, is one of his targets. And then there is the group of artificial humans known as homunculi, who seem directly linked to the Philosopher's Stone in some way. They all have these individual powers, so to speak, and they're all associated with one of the 7 deadly sins. So, for example, the character Gluttony, one of the homunculi, basically can just eat a person. So these people are working in the shadows for their own nefarious purposes, and because Edward and Alphonse are searching for the Philosopher's Stone, they of course end up on a collision course with the homunculi. So that forms the basic plot of Fullmetal Alchemist. It's the search for the Philosopher's Stone, and also the ways that Edward, Alphonse, and the rest of Amestris work to stop this killer who's after state alchemists and work to defeat the plot of the homunculi, whatever that may be. Again, I'm not going to spoil too much. Let's do a quick overview of some of the different qualities of the series. So I would generally classify Fullmetal Alchemist as an action and adventure series with a little bit of military influence on it. It's also in a sort of light steampunk setting if you're into that sort of stuff. It was ultimately collected in 27 individual volumes. So the series is complete. You can go ahead and read the whole series now. It's been completed for almost 10 years now. So if you want to add Fullmetal Alchemist to your collection, you have a few options. There are the digital versions, which are currently licensed by Yen Press. And then there are the physical editions that Viz Media prints. For the physical editions, you have a few options. First, there are the individual single volumes, the 27 collected editions. So those are the original prints in America. They have the original story, some bonus comics at the end, and they're just a pretty standard release for what you would expect for a general manga series. Then you have the 3-in-1 omnibus editions, which are going to be your best cost-efficient option if you're looking to save a little bit of money on the purchase of this series. Each one has 3 of the original 27 volumes, so they are thick boys. And I don't have one to show because I don't typically collect those type of omnibuses. But again, it's going to be the most cost efficient, though you might get a little bit of sacrifice on the paper quality. Remember, equivalent exchange. The third option are these new full metal editions, which are these nice hardcover releases. They come with some color pages within the book, so you don't just get the black and white original print run, but you do miss out on some of the bonus comics that were in the original 27 volumes. I can't speak about those extra comics in the omnibuses. I actually do not know if those are still in those 3-in-1 volumes, so sorry about that. But these full metal editions, they each contain 1.5 volumes. As you can see, these are printed on this nice, thick, glossy paper, so you get a nice sheen when reading this manga. It's definitely a nicer release than the 27 volumes or the omnibus 3-in-1s in that regard. That being said, I will caution you a bit. There is something that I personally have found with these full metal editions, which is that the binding on them isn't exactly the strongest, and I'll show you what I mean here. So this is the second full metal edition, and when I just opened it up, normally like I would open up any book, it tore right here down the almost down the spine. And I've had not quite this bad of an issue with some of the other ones, but it does feel like the bindings, the glue, they're very stiff and don't want to have much give to them. Now, I haven't noticed it as bad with some of the newer volumes, but it's still something to consider if you're picking this up, because you might have a little bit of tearing with the front or back pages. Now, there will be 18 of these volumes, and I believe we're currently on volume 13 as of March 2021. So we're wrapping up the series with the full metal editions. So it's a great time to jump in if you want to. If you're more interested in watching from an anime perspective, if you're not so keen on reading a full 27 volume series, you do have 2 options. Those being the original 2003 anime series, just Fullmetal Alchemist, and the 2009 series Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, Fullmetal Alchemist, the 2003 series, it actually features an anime original ending because the manga was still ongoing at the time, and Brotherhood is the more faithful adaptation to the manga. I'll leave it up to y'all which one you want to check out if you do choose to check it out, just wanted to let you know that there are two options out there, and both have their strengths and weaknesses, I think. As far as objectionable content, Fullmetal Alchemist is very light on any sort of fan service. All in all, it's a very tame series. I can think of one throwaway verbal joke that's in the dialogue later on in the series, but beyond that, it's perfectly fine as far as fan service. And then as far as violence, it is an action series, so it comes with the territory that there is going to be a little bit of blood, but it's never really gratuitous like you might see in a very mature series. If you're interested in knowing what other works Arakawa Sensei has worked on that you can also get in English, you can check out Silver Spoon, a slice of life manga, or you can check out the more action-oriented series Hero Tales and the Heroic Legend of Arslan. All three of those are available in English, with Silver Spoon, I think, having recently wrapped up its English publication, and the Heroic Legend of Arslan is still ongoing. So you can pretty easily check out any of these series that you might decide to if you end up liking Arakawa Sensei's work. Now, as far as who Fullmetal Alchemist might be for, if you're someone who really likes large, diverse casts, then you're going to have a ball with this. There are so many characters, all of them play an important role in some capacity. Almost no one gets left out of the final climactic ending. At its core, this is the story of the brothers, but there's such a large supporting cast that it really becomes an ensemble type story. If you like strong female characters or just manly men being men, there are some great characters for you in this series. Also, if you like having satisfactory endings in your manga, this one is going to be a no-brainer. A lot of times manga become more about the journey than the destination, and while the journey is absolutely the point of Fullmetal Alchemist, it's not one of those manga that the ending feels like it was rushed or that the author just kind of ran out of ideas. Everything wraps up so nicely, so cleanly, it's completely obvious that the author had this in mind from the beginning and was working towards this. So if you want a manga with just a satisfying ending, Fullmetal Alchemist is a great choice. The story of Fullmetal Alchemist is a very tight, condensed story. Even though it is 27 volumes, there's not much meandering away from the main storyline. So if you're someone who doesn't really like filler or just stalled pacing or different arcs, then this is going to be a good series for you because it all really leads up to this one ending point. Now, who Fullmetal Alchemist might not be for? If you don't really like the prospect of your favorite characters dying, then you might want to avoid this series because it does become something of a roulette wheel at some point about who's going to make it out alive. If you're not a fan of magic systems or anything resembling magic, you might have a little trouble getting past the concept of alchemy. Even though technically it's a science, still, it's basically a magic. I don't really think it's the core of the series. This is more of a series based on the characters and the plot, not about abilities and power-ups and stuff. But if you still just don't really like having any kind of magic whatsoever, then again, this might be a series that won't play to your tastes. And last, there is one specific instance of questionable LGBT representation. It's one character, and it's not really anything bad so much as just stereotypically flamboyant, but the character's there. Do what you will with that information. And that about wraps it up. So I hope that you found something interesting in this video, that you learned about hopefully a new series, but I'm kind of doubting that Fullmetal Alchemist is a new series for most people. But maybe this video convinced you to check it out, or maybe it told you that, yeah, it's not really for you. Definitely let me know in the comment section below if this video helps you make a decision one way or the other. And also let me know if there's any kind of other information that you would like to see in future manga archives that maybe I didn't touch on for Fullmetal Alchemist. But Fullmetal Alchemist overall, it is my personal favorite manga series, and I hope that now it's going to be someone else's favorite series too. So happy reading, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.